بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله ومن والاه. I'd like to begin by expressing my gratitude to Aman Palestin for organizing this magnificent function, a timely one, and one that adopts the right theme. It will be impossible to struggle against Zionism if we do not understand what Zionism is about. It would be impossible to extend a helping hand to the Palestinians in their struggle and resistance if we do not have the proper knowledge of the roots of this conflict. When I was growing up in Hebron, in Al-Khalil, all I could hear from the elders around me was about the Yahud, the Jews. The Jews did to us, the Jews might do to us. The Jews. The Jews were always portrayed as the enemy. Our discourse was primarily about the Jewish occupation of our homeland. Of course, when I was growing up, my own hometown had not yet been occupied. It was occupied later in 1967. Now, what is the relationship of the Jews to this project? When we talk about Israel, when we talk about Zionism, are we talking about the Jews? In fact, if we go back to the 19th century, when the Zionist movement started picking up momentum, we will discover that the majority of the Jews were opposed to Zionism. The Jews in Europe, where Zionism started, did not agree with the Zionists. Theodor Herzl, the convener of the first Zionist conference, found it very, very difficult to convince the Jews of his time that his mission of establishing a homeland for the Jews was a noble mission. He was actually condemned, accused of being a heretic, that is a kafir, a murtad. So the Jews described them as a murtad. And he was accused of causing a grave danger to the Jewish people around the world by embroiling them in such a sinister project. The Jews, most of them at that time, still believed that it was haram for them to go to Palestine. They believed it was a sin, a kabira, one of the kaba'ir, to go against the will of God, because they believed, according to the Talmud, that God had told them not to return to the land of promise, to Palestine, until Al-Masih had come, until the Messiah had come, or the Mahdi, as some people call him. The Mahdi, the Messiah, and the Masih is all the same thing, and there is no such thing anyway. They believed that Theodor Herzl and his Zionist bunch were trying to impose on God their own will and on the Jewish people a plan that was designed to serve not the Jews, but the world powers of the time. I mean, you think about it. Do you think that 3 million Jews or 4 million Jews, because this is what the Jewish population was at the time, could have controlled the entire world in order to establish a Jewish state in Palestine? It's impossible. Even if they had all the money, even if they had whatever people think they had, they could not have done it by themselves. So the Zionist project is about a world order. It's not just about the Jews. It's not even about the Jews, because as I told you, the majority of the Jews opposed the idea. Actually, when Balfour submitted his project to the British cabinet in 1917, the only member of the cabinet who opposed the plan to give Palestine to the Jews was the only Jewish member of the cabinet. So all the others were Christian. They wanted the Jews to go to Palestine, and the only person who did not want that to happen was the only Jewish member of the cabinet. Who were the others? Most of them were Christian Zionists. And that brings us to another thing. There is something called Christian Zionism. There is Jewish Zionism, and there is Christian Zionism. And today we have even Arab and Muslim Zionism. The people who contribute to the siege of Gaza are Muslim Zionists, like Mubarak and Mahmoud Abbas and all these guys. These are Muslim Zionists. Whoever helps Israel and has a Muslim name is a Muslim Zionist. So Zionism is not a religion. Zionism is an idea. The idea of getting the Jews back to Palestine and helping them to occupy the land. The Christian Zionists are actually much older than the Jewish Zionists. The Christian Zionists were born out of the Reformation. Martin Luther is the father. Martin Luther, who founded Protestantism, is the founder of Christian Zionism. What does Christian Zionism say? It says that the Christian Messiah, and every religion has a Messiah, every religion has a Mahdi, that the Christian Mahdi or the Christian Messiah was not going to come until all the Jews were returned to Palestine. And this explains why much wanted to send the Jews back to Palestine, in order for their Messiah to come. Christian Zionism is the most anti-Semitic movement in the history of Europe. Anti-Semitism. You hear the term a lot. It really means anti-Jewishness. It's really the wrong term, anti-Semitism. They should have said anti-Jew, anti-Jewishness. Because I, Azam01, is more Semite than any Jew in the world. I know my ancestry. We go all the way back to Tamim al-Dari, who is a pure Arab, a pure Sami. But most of the Jews are bastards. We don't know where they come from. We don't know. Maybe they know their father, their grandfather, I'm not sure. But they use the term anti-Semitism as if it's a racial thing. No, it's not a racial thing. Because being a Jew is not belonging to a race. Being a Jew is belonging to a Jewish community, a religious community. Like being a Muslim. By being a Muslim, you don't belong to a race. You can be a Malay, you can be a Chinese,